Hey guys, Daniel Gillespie here with UponArriving.com, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use your Amex membership rewards to fly on United Airlines. I'm also going to show you how flying with these partners can actually be a better use of your points than flying with United in a lot of cases. And finally, I'm going to show you a special hidden trick for booking United flights that may or may not work. So before I jump in, if you're new to this channel, I cover credit card rewards, hotels, airfare, and a lot of other interesting travel topics. So if you like that type of stuff, be sure to hit that subscribe button and then hit that little bell icon next to it just to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. Okay, so the first way that you can use your Amex points to fly United is by utilizing Amex Travel. Now this is basically the travel portal for American Express, and it has its advantages because it allows you to book pretty much any flight that you find. So you don't have to worry about things like limited award availability, blackout dates, or anything like that. If you see a flight, you can book it. Now, the disadvantage is that your redemptions are limited to only 1 cent per point, which is not a very good redemption rate. So you are going to sacrifice value if you use this, and generally I would not recommend to do this. However, if you have the American Express Business Platinum card, you can actually get a 35% rebate on your redemptions with business class and first class redemptions, or on economy redemptions on your selected airline. Now this amounts to getting 1.54 cents per point in value for your Amex membership rewards, which is actually very good and even better than the Sapphire Reserve. So in many cases, it could make sense for you as a Business Platinum card member to use your points to fly United through the Amex travel portal, and I'll show you an example of when that would be the case. So I found a round trip from Houston to Orlando for $161 on United. Now, if I chose to book this flight with United miles, it would cost me 25,000 miles. But if I booked this through the Amex travel portal as a Business Platinum card holder, I could actually book this flight for about 10,500 points. So in a lot of cases, it can actually make sense to use Amex Travel to book United flights, especially whenever the mileage requirements for those flights would be more expensive. Now, a lot of times for these cheaper flights, it really just makes sense to use cash, but maybe you don't want to use cash, and in that case, it could make sense to go this route. So next I'm going to get into booking with partners. Now these are mostly Star Alliance partners, which means that they are in the same alliance as United. And the way that this works is you will transfer your points that you earn with American Express to another airline, and they are converted into miles for that airline. So for example, you could transfer your Amex membership rewards to Singapore KrisFlyer, and your points become KrisFlyer miles. You can then use those KrisFlyer miles to book a flight on United. And so that's how it's going to work with all of the partners that I'm going to discuss below. Now the first step that I would do is to go to the United website and search for Saver Award availability, because you want to first verify that there are open Saver Awards with United, and then you want to try to contact or search for those awards with the other programs. And I'll talk a little bit more about availability in this video, but that's kind of how you can get things started with finding these awards to use with Amex partners. Now something to keep in mind is that the transfer times to these partners is not always instant, and so what I've done in the article below is list the estimated transfer time to all of these different partners, so be sure to check that out if you're curious about how long that might take. So the first airline that you want to think about using is ANA, because they are one of the best airlines to use for award travel. They have some of the cheapest rates to pretty much any destination around the globe. The catch with them is that whenever you book a partner award, you have to book a round trip, but they do allow you a stopover, which is basically a layover that you can turn into a multi-day stay if you'd like. So to give you an idea of the value with ANA, I'm going to show you a couple of examples, starting off with Europe. If you were to use United miles to fly to Europe, round trip and business class, that would cost you 120,000 miles. But if you were to go with ANA, that would only cost you 88,000 miles. So that's a huge savings for the exact same flight. And one thing that's even crazier is that I've actually checked in the past on the fees, and the fees with ANA were actually lower when booking a United flight versus booking a United flight with United miles. Now, I'm not sure if that's always the case, but it's pretty crazy to me that you can save thousands of miles, and you can also save in fees as well. Another destination is South America that's great for ANA miles at only 88,000 miles for a round trip in business class and about $50 in fees. That's really hard to beat, and United is going to charge you about 120,000 miles. To get to Japan, you only have to use 85,000 ANA miles versus 140,000 United miles. So again, you're taking the same exact flight, but you're paying a lot more in miles if you want to go with United. But here is the catch to some of these flights. So for this example to Japan, United only wanted to charge about $45 in fees, while ANA was going to charge $340 in fees. So this is something that you have to balance is, do you value saving miles or do you value saving money on fees? And then you have to look at it and say, okay, in a case like this, I'm going to save about $300 in fees, but I'm going to have to spend about 55,000 more miles. So how much value do I really place on those miles? And also the convenience factor plays in. Is it easier for you to earn those miles? Is it harder? So that's something that it comes down to your own judgment. So be sure to let me know in the comments below how you feel about spending money on fees versus spending more miles and how you usually go about that situation. And by the way, for all of these programs, if you want to find out how to enroll in the programs and utilize their search features, that's all shown in the article below. So be sure to give that a click and you should find the instructions pretty simple. The next option is Aeroplan. Now this is the frequent flyer program for Air Canada. They actually were just purchased by Air Canada. And so in my opinion, things are going to change in the future for sure. But for now, Aeroplan is a great program to use for award travel, and I especially like them for flying United to Europe. So Aeroplan breaks down Europe into two regions, Europe 1 and Europe 2, and both of those regions are cheaper to fly to than the 120,000 miles round trip that United would require. Aeroplan is great because they allow you to book one-way flights, so you don't have to worry about the round trips like you do with ANA. So to give you an idea of what Europe 1 looks like, you can find a lot of the popular destinations like Italy, France, the UK, and several others. If you're interested in finding out what countries are in Europe 1 and Europe 2, you can check the article below and I have a breakdown of all of those countries. But I've used Aeroplan in the past to fly on another Star Alliance member, SAS, and it was a great flight. I got a lot of value from it, and it's definitely something that I would do again. But if you're using Aeroplan to fly on other Star Alliance partners, you need to be careful about incurring high fees. But there are certain airlines that you can fly and virtually always avoid those high fees. And again, just check the article below and you can see a full list of those airlines that you can avoid fees on. So the next partner is Avianca Life Miles, and I know I probably am saying that with a huge gringo twist, but this is a great program. They were recently added in 2017 as a partner to Citi, and then just recently added as a transfer partner to American Express and Capital One. So now you have 3 different sources to rack up these miles, and in addition to that, they often sell their miles for very cheap. So when it comes to earning miles, I think Avianca is one of the easiest programs to accumulate miles for. So Avianca has a few advantages. They have some pretty decent redemptions, a pretty good online search feature. They allow you to book one-way awards, and you can avoid high surcharges on a lot of airlines, so they are one of the cheapest to fly on. And one of the reasons why they are so great to fly on United is that United will charge you something called a close-in fee if you book an award flight 21 days prior to departure. Now that is a $75 fee unless you have status, in which case it's lower or possibly even waived. But in any event, that adds a lot to your award travel costs. But with Avianca, you can actually book a United flight and avoid that close-in fee. Avianca breaks down the US into 3 separate regions, so they actually have different rates for different zones. And if you're flying a short haul flight, you can get an economy award for as low as 7,500 miles one way. But I really like the rates in their medium haul zones for domestic flights. So for example, if I wanted to fly from Texas to New York, that would only cost me 30,000 miles for a round trip business class ticket versus the 50,000 that United would charge me. Avianca also has some decent redemptions to other places like South America, Australia, and Europe. I really like their rates to Brazil, which are at 100,000 points for a round trip business class ticket, which I think is one of the best. And so if you're ever looking to take United down to South America, especially Brazil, then Avianca can be a good route to go. So the next program is Singapore KrisFlyer. Now they did recently devalue their award chart for partners, so some of these redemptions are not as lucrative as they once were, but there still are some great redemption rates to find in that Star Alliance award chart. Another thing great about Singapore is that they allow one-way awards, and they also are a transfer partner of Citi, Chase, and American Express, not to mention Marriott/SPG. So this is another one of those programs where it is incredibly easy to rack up a lot of their points because you can just pour in points from all of the different major programs. So one of my favorite ways to use Singapore miles for United flights is flying around the US or even to Canada, because they charge only $20,000 for a one-way business class ticket. So that means that you can get round trip around the US or even to Canada for only 40,000 miles, which is definitely a sweet spot. Another great rate is 100,000 points round trip in business class to South America. Again, one of the most competitive rates out there, and that's going to beat United by 20,000 miles. So the final hidden option is Aer Lingus. Now this is hidden, but it's also potentially not effective. But I did still want to include this in the video. Aer Lingus has always kind of felt like the redheaded stepchild of the Avios family to me, and that's just because maybe because they're Irish, but also they have been kind of overshadowed by Iberia and British Airways in most cases. However, at least one person has reported online that they were searching for Aer Lingus flights, and they called in about the flights that they found on avios.com, and a representative allowed them to actually book a United flight. Now they ended up not booking that flight, but it still was pretty crazy that they allowed them that option, because that's really not something that's publicized or talked about. So it could be that that was just a one-time glitch, or it could be something that recurs every so often. Now I did call about Saver Awards for domestic flights in the US, and they told me no, that cannot be done. It's not an option. But I'm thinking that maybe if there is some kind of glitch, maybe it only works whenever you're flying internationally, maybe to and from Ireland. So this is something that I definitely would not depend on, but I still would maybe check it out every so often, because it would be pretty cool if you can use that distance-based award chart of Aer Lingus. And if you're curious about that distance-based award chart, you can actually find that in the article below. So you've seen a lot of different ways that you can save a lot of miles and you can avoid fees with these different partners, and it looks really good, but there are a couple of drawbacks. The first drawback is that a lot of awards that show up on United's website don't show up for the partners. So sometimes you'll find an Open Saver award on United, and then you'll go to a partner's website and you don't see it, and then you'll call into them and then they don't see it, and then it's just a very frustrating and annoying experience. However, sometimes you can call in and they're able to do something on their end with the computers, and they can find that award. But a lot of times this is something kind of like phantom availability, where one website shows that it's there and then another doesn't. So that is something that is a bit annoying. Another drawback is that if you bank your miles with United and you have the Explorer card, you get access to the increased Saver availability. And in many cases, that can make a huge difference, because it allows you to use your miles much easier because you have many more options. And so if you're booking with these partners, you're going to lose out on that benefit, and that can be kind of a bummer. Overall, I'm really impressed with the Amex transfer partners, and if you're like me and you live near a United hub and you sort of default to United a lot of times, it really does make it easier to fly with them because you have so many different options. So if you found this video helpful or informative, and now you know how to use your Amex points to book United flights, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and also to check out the links below for more information.